Hi, welcome to Baked Basement Banter. I'm Debbie Friedmann, and I'm the director and choreographer of REEFER Madness.
I'm Phoenix Bradley. I'm the assistant stage manager for REEFER Madness.
So, Phoenix, you're an assistant stage manager, but I know you've also done a lot of other things in theater, so maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of the other roles you've had and other productions you've done.
I've done a bit of onstage, offstage. I was bottom in a production of Midsummer Night's Dream, as well as I've done multiple musicals before. So I've been in productions such as Shrek the Musical.
Fun.
I've done Beauty and the Beast, as well as Little Shop of Horrors. A lot of sort of the musical types as well.
Cool. And in all those, that was acting mostly?
Yeah, that was
nice.
all acting.
What have you done behind the scenes before this, or like backstage, sort of?
So backstage, I helped a bit in high school doing backstage while I was also on stage. But mainly since recent years, I've done assistant stage managing for a production in Fringe, as well as assistant stage managing while I was at Dawson College.
Cool, nice. Yeah. And how are you liking assistant stage management versus like performance? Like they're very, very different roles.
Yeah, no, they're very different things. Your mind has to always be following sort of different tracks when you're focused on one or the other. But I think assistant stage managing has been a lot of fun for now, because it's a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. Like you get to taste sort of every single pot that you're working with while you're on a production. So I find this always fun because it's not just, I'm just doing this or I'm just doing that. It's like I get to participate and help out everywhere in every section. So that's really nice rather than just focusing on one stream.
Yeah, rather than just having, I feel like especially with actors, I think are the most like focused on one thing, right? Like your job is to do your role mostly in the space. I mean, depending a little bit on what world you're in, but like generally speaking, that's kind of like your focus. Whereas like, assistant stage managers get to do a bit of everything. And speaking of kind of that getting to do a little bit of everything, what's kind of one of the weirdest things or craziest things you've been asked to do as an assistant stage manager or as a performer? Actually, I'll throw it out either way. What's one of like the kind of zany moments that you're like, okay, I guess I can take that on. That's gonna happen.
It was actually for the production of Saltzman's Antiques at the Fringe this past season, and it doesn't seem crazy when I try to explain it. But basically, I had to move a backpack back and forth behind stage, but my space to move was about yay big, and it was a curtain, so I kind of had to, like, shimmy my way across with this backpack stuck to me.
Hugged against you.
Yeah, no, like, I had to, like, hug this backpack for dear life and shimmy across this alleyway so that the curtain didn't move too much, and then have to bring that backpack back later on. So it was just a bit of a wild, like, can I do this without making it super obvious that something's happening?
That brings me a little bit to our show now that we're working on, which you've got into, like, also, I think, get to know a bit more now about what's going on the production side, as well as also, like, see a little bit how things are going with the cast and, like, the kind of gags that are getting kind of incorporated into a particular production. So I'm curious if you've ever worked on a show before where you do kind of highlight the backstage in some ways, or if there's a moment from this show that you're like, I'm really excited for people to see this idea happen, because it's like bringing that backstage onto the stage. It's kind of fun.
I think what I'm really excited for is this couch right here.
I'm telling you, it's the star of the show. It's come up so often.
Absolutely.
It's really brilliant.
I think actually this couch for this show is probably going to be my favorite thing, because it really is a meld of backstage and front stage, like on stage. For sure, with everything that's going to be happening. Yeah. I don't want to say too much because, like...
Yeah. We're trying not to spoil it, but also, like, spoiling it a little bit. Just in the sense that, like, this couch is important.
This is
you get to see her
couch.
A lot. She's great. Yeah, gendered her, apparently. It's fine.
Great couch. And everything we're like, planning on doing with it, I'm really excited for. It's gonna be insane to track.
Yeah. But it's already like I see both you and Laura, like every rehearsal where something comes up with the couch, I like see the like stress. I see the like, oh my goodness, that couch it's gonna have so much stuff going on it.
You know, for sure. It's like, this is fine.
It's fine. It's like,
But I know it's all gonna come together super well.
Yeah.
So
it's been fun. Yeah. So you talked about being a performer too, so I want to ask you a little bit about that actually. If you had any dream role, what would it be?
Probably, it's not a super well-known show, but I would love to play Dr. Chris from Telltale Harbor. It's a musical from out our East Coast.
I do not know this. This is a new show. I'm really excited about that.
So,
love that.
It's a show based on the Grand Seduction, but he's always been a character it's a new musical, but he's kind of conflicted because he wants to do the right thing with his life around him, but at the same time he's kind of struggling with the fact that everything's planned out for him the entire time. And once he gets to this tiny little sort of East Coast town, he's finally like, I have to figure everything out from here or else something's gonna happen and it's gonna go wrong. So I think that would be a fun role to play.
It's like an interesting arc to have, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah,
and it's also a musical, so it's a lot of fun.
Fun, nice. Yeah. If you had to step into this show in any part, which part do you think you would most want to play?
I'd have to say either Ralph, because he's just so unhinged.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun
to
try to do that. I'd say Ralph or Jack. Mainly because I'm usually, when I do stuff on stage, I'm usually kind of like the funny and like comedy of some kind. So I think it would be really cool to try something a little darker.
A little different. Yeah, that's always fun. It's always interesting doing something different. Now going back to the behind the scenes world, if you were to do anything aside from assistant stage management, like now that you were talking earlier about how you kind of get to try different things as an assistant stage manager, I think most assistant stage managers are really involved in props tracking and understanding props especially, but also costumes. Like I feel like assistant stage managers get exposed to a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you could do anything backstage, something different than stage management, what do you think it would be?
Honestly, I'd probably love to be part of like sets and props teams, on the designer team for sure. Especially like construction. I love putting together stuff with my hands and building stuff and creating things. So getting to be part of like bringing the set to life would be absolutely amazing. I think working with like Leo and Jerry would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean I think that's gonna end up happening a bit because as you said, assistant stage managers get pulled into all sorts of things. So realistically, I think both you and Laura will end up being more involved in set and prop setup than you're maybe expecting now, but that'll be a lot of fun. We are so lucky with this group. I think we have such a fun team too. Like I think that's like a good thing. Like I think it's like both the cast and the crew are just like such a fun time to be around. Do we have any other audience questions we want to ask?
Not that it's easy, but that I guess it's something you could just pick up like right off the bat, because a lot of times people think it's sort of, you're just like, okay, making sure actors are there on time, making sure like we know who's where when, scenes and all that kind of stuff. But stage management really kind of covers all the bases to kind of help make sure, it's like a safety net to make sure everyone gets to everyone on time and everything's organized, and like we like tracking props, tracking if there's any costume changes. There's so much paperwork.
Yeah.
So it's
so much paperwork.
Absolutely. So it's just, I guess that it's just something anyone can pick it up, but it's not something that's easy, I guess, is a big thing. Like, it's not just like, you need to be here at 6. It's actors, tech, everything, making sure everything comes together.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think people underestimate how much, again, just in general, I was talking about this Laura too, like just in general, how much stage management does, period. And then also like how much gets done when they're not in the rehearsal room, when they're not making those calls, like the paperwork tracking. Like stage management is like in charge of tracking a lot of things and like keeping track of a lot of different cues that happen. So yeah, it's a lot of work for sure.
Like our work doesn't end when rehearsal ends. Like
exactly. Yeah. Stage management team is often like they say this in theater that stage management is usually the first one there, last one out, and like that's very true. The stage management is usually there first, setting up the space before we even start, and is always there after, not just taking down the space, but also making sure any important information gets transited out wherever it needs to get transited out to. So thanks so much for sitting down and talking with me and letting the world know more about stage management and stage managing in particular, our kind of kooky, zany, satire, crazy shows.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It's been a blast,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to see where this show goes because it's
It's a bit of a trip.
it is very much a trip.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Great.